Week 3 NFL Awards.
These are your weekly NFL awards.
Starting with our Daddy of the Week, and I told you guys after week 1 that this award just goes to the player who I believe exuded the most daddy energy that given week. And for week 3, it's David Montgomery. You know, Montgomery really gives me daddy vibes as far as running backs go. He's sturdy, reliable, always there when you need him, fantastic role model, fantastic father figure, and it's a good thing because he just became the daddy of the entire city of Baltimore. 12 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns, enough to almost single-handedly take down the Ravens in this massive primetime game, and probably enough to single-handedly beat you in fantasy football if you faced him and send you down into a deep, spiraling depression. You know, Montgomery is not necessarily the guy you think of when you think of X factors in big games like this. And then right when you least expect it, he reminds you exactly who he is. Truly a deserving Daddy of the Week. But Montgomery's performance wasn't the only reason the Lions beat the Ravens on Monday night. It was also partially because of the winner of this week's Don't Check Your DMs award, Derrick Henry. Buddy, hold on to the ball. That's now 3 fumbles in the first 3 games of the season for Derrick Henry, 2 of which have been back-breaking, game-losing fumbles. I think it's a little bit easier to excuse the week 1 fumble. Yes, it sucked and was horrible timing, but it's hard to look at a guy who just took 18 carries for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns and say he's the sole reason why you lost. But this week was a different story. Just 12 carries for 50 yards and a score, capped off by another huge choke job in the 4th quarter. We gotta get it under control. And speaking of needing to get it under control, I'm also giving this award to a co-winner this week. Ramondre Stevenson, you are pushing me toward violence. The Patriots-Steelers game was rightfully nowhere near primetime like the Lions and Ravens game was, but if you watched it, then you know fumbling was infinitely more of a problem for the Patriots this week than it was for the Ravens. 2 Ramondre Stevenson fumbles, 4 lost fumbles total, plus an interception in a game the Patriots lost by 1 score. If New England could just stop marinating their gloves in bacon grease overnight, they win this game easily. Instead, they're staring down the barrel of 1 and 2, with Ramondre Stevenson's fumbling issues that date back to last season continuing once again. Oh, and fun fact, did you know Travion Henderson never fumbled once in college on 667 career touches? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, Derek, Ramondre, don't check your DMs, especially Ramondre, because I might be in there. Our bum of the week goes to Michael Penix Jr. This was supposed to be a nice and easy week against one of the worst defenses in the entire NFL with the Carolina Panthers, and instead Penix's accuracy was so bad he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. 18 for 36 for 172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, as the Dirty Birds got shut out by Carolina. Getting shut out by the Panthers really might be a new low. Now, I could give them an award just for that, but it would probably get intercepted too. Our fantasy football bust of the week goes to Malik Neighbors, 2.3 half PPR points after a 33-point outburst last week. Now, I obviously saw a drop-off coming to some extent. There was just no way a Steve Spagnuolo defense was going to come into the week and let Malik Neighbors beat them constantly, but I expected him to beat them a little bit more than never. The guy was completely erased from the game, but I'm confident better days are ahead, mostly because of the fate of this next guy, our winner of the Consequences of My Own Actions award, Russell Wilson. Now, there are a couple consequences of his actions, but first, let's talk about exactly what the actions were. And really what it boils down to is Russ was able to torch a terrible Cowboys defense last week with the formula of check down, touchdown. Every pass he threw was either a check down or an absolute bomb all the way down the field. A formula that bad defenses can't handle, but good defenses absolutely can. And at a certain point in this game, Russ got tired of the defenses forcing him to check it down, so he said, I'm throwing it down the field whether it's a good idea or not. It never was. It led to multiple interceptions, contributed to the terrible production from Malik Neighbors, and ultimately caused the biggest consequence possible, getting benched, because as of the day I'm recording this video, Jackson Dart has been named the starting quarterback of the New York Giants. Just 2 weeks after Russ threw for his career high in passing yards. And now Dart gets to deal with the Chargers this week, a little break when he faces the Saints, but then the Eagles, Broncos, and Eagles again. Good luck. Game of the week has to go to Rams-Eagles, a rematch of their divisional round playoff game last year, the only playoff game the Eagles didn't win by more than 1 possession, and it lived up to the hype. 33-26 final in a game where all of the stars showed out with one of the most chaotic endings to a game you could possibly see, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Now, I said the stars showed out, and one of those stars was the winner of this week's comeback player of the week, A.J. Brown. It was a rough start for A.J. through the first 2 games, just 35 receiving yards total, but Philly got him involved in this one with 6 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown, including plenty of his signature bully ball, so it was good to see A.J. finally get it going. Team of the week. Look, I gotta give credit where credit's due, and I probably would have bet $1 million this team would not be the team of the week at any point this year, but it's the Cleveland Browns. They pulled off as big of an upset as you could possibly pull off just 3 weeks into the season with a 13-10 victory over who many have tabbed as Super Bowl favorites, the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if the Packers overlooked them or were getting a little bit too high on their own supply, but the Browns welcomed Green Bay into their dog pound and welcomed Jordan Love into the arms of their defenders multiple times and came out on top. And this game also featured the funniest touchdown of the week, which I think is kind of indicative of how the day went for the Packers, because their only touchdown of the day was to tight end, no, not Tucker Kraft, not Luke Musgrave, John Fitzpatrick, because of course. Our offensive player of the week is Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure you've all been anxiously awaiting my take on the Colts after another win by them this week, and am I still in the I'm not falling for that camp, or am I buying in? I'm buying in, which means they're going to lose this week, but I'm buying in. Look, if all Daniel Jones has to do is manage this offense because Jonathan Taylor is going to run like a man possessed all season, this team is probably going to be pretty good. Taylor took 17 carries for 102 yards and 3 touchdowns and has looked like quite literally the best running back in the sport these first 3 weeks. When he's healthy, he's a problem. And when Daniel Jones has competent play calling and a competent supporting cast, apparently he's also a problem. And it doesn't hurt that the Colts might clinch the AFC South by week 9 with how the rest of the division's playing. This might be the easiest defensive player of the week award I give out all season because it was quite possibly the best single game cornerback performance ever. It's Isaiah Rodgers of the Minnesota Vikings. 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery touchdown, and a pick 6. Jake Browning is going to see this guy in his nightmares after the 48-10 beatdown the Vikings gave the Bengals, largely thanks to Rodgers' efforts. He even got the first ever 99.9 grade in PFF history. Literally a perfect game by their metrics. Absolute demon. Offensive Rookie of the Week was closely contested, but I'm going to give it to Cam Scatterbo. Peyton Hillis reincarnated, made his presence known in the Giants game Sunday night against the Chiefs. 10 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown, along with 6 catches for 61 yards through the air. Scatterbo was already taking over this backfield, and now with Tyrone Tracy set to miss a few weeks, his stranglehold on it is only going to get stronger. He was one of the most fun players to watch in all of college football last year, so I'm glad he's getting a real shot on the main stage. And to any defender that wants to get in front of him one-on-one, just let me know what you want your gravestone to say. Also, an honorable mention goes to Omarion Hampton. Could have easily given this award to him as well. He had a huge breakout game after a rough go last week, and now with the injury to Najee Harris, it looks like it's going to be wheels up from this point forward. Our Defensive Rookie of the Week is going to be Carson Schlesinger, another instrumental piece to the Browns' upset of the Packers. 10 tackles plus his first career sack, the best game of his young career. Next, we've got our Play of the Week award, and this is going to go to the block kick. You may be asking which one? Why not all of them? I'm not sure I've ever seen such a strong, weird theme in a single week of the NFL season. Occurring within literal minutes of each other, there were 3 fourth-quarter blocked field goals across the league, all of which with major consequences for the game at hand. The Rams, with 13 seconds left, were going to take a 2-point lead against the Eagles. Instead, Jordan Davis blocks it and hauls his giant behind down the field at alarming speed, mind you, to clinch the game for Philly. The Packers, with 27 seconds left, were going to take a 13-10 lead against the Browns. Instead, that kick gets blocked, and the Browns go down to kick a field goal of their own to win 13-10. And then the Jets blocked the Buccaneers field goal attempt with 1:49 left and returned it for a touchdown to take a 1-point lead. They ultimately lost on a Tampa Bay field goal as time expired, but of course they did. They're the Jets. So many monumental field goals getting blocked at the end of games within, again, minutes of each other. So it has to be the Play of the Week, just as a concept. Our Where the did that come from award winner is Trey Tucker. We got our first truly absurd out-of-nowhere wide receiver performance of the season, with Tucker catching 8 passes for 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. I highly doubt he has another performance anywhere near this for the rest of the season, but that's kind of the spirit of the award, so that's fine. Our Bugatti in the Trailer Park Award winner for week 3 is Nico Collins. Now, Nico is really living the trailer park life, because if not for a broken coverage touchdown, this sinking ship that is the Houston Texans would have brought him down with it. Luckily, he saved his day and his stat line with that play. Sadly, though, this does make me nervous for future weeks where he doesn't get bailed out like this, because this team is brutal right now. Not a whole lot of positives to speak of. Nico deserves better. The Kyle Pitts Award for all hype and no substance goes to Brian Thomas Jr. We talked about Brian Thomas last week, but we have officially entered Kyle Pitts territory. Now, so far I've given this award out to rookies who have failed to make an immediate impact, but honestly, Brian Thomas might be the most appropriate winner of this award so far, because Kyle Pitts had an amazing year as a rookie, and then inexplicably fell off in year 2, before the injury. And for whatever reason, that seems to be what's happening to Brian Thomas Jr. Whether it's the yips, Trevor Lawrence not looking for him, Trevor Lawrence not being able to hit him, a Liam Cohen issue, a Shane Waldron issue, or a combination of everything, it is not clicking for Brian Thomas Jr. in year 2. And I think it's officially fair to be worried that it might not get a lot better. Oh, and the other parallel between Kyle Pitts year 2 and Brian Thomas year 2 is I drafted them both in fantasy. So, me, I guess. The Quentin Johnson Award goes to Marvin Harrison Jr. because, my guy, what is this drop? I don't think Kyler could have handed you this ball any better. And I am once again faced with the pressure of renaming this award, especially because I think Quentin Johnson might genuinely be better. The Nathan Peterman Award for worst interception goes to Tua Tagovailoa. Sorry, Tua, just because you started us off on Thursday Night Football and a lot of games happened since then does not mean I forgot about you. This game was closer than it had any right to be down the stretch, until Tua threw one of the most brain-dead interceptions you'll see all year. And then had the audacity to say it was a great play by the linebacker and that he would throw that pass again. Maybe don't admit you would throw the same pass again that got intercepted by a linebacker you just didn't see. Tua sucks, man. I don't really have a lot to say about it anymore. The Unk Still Got It Award goes to Keenan Allen. This award's honestly probably a little overdue for Keenan. I'm essentially giving it to him this week for what he's done in totality over these first 3 weeks, because he has just been a rock-solid weapon for Justin Herbert. Another great game, 7 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown, after 5 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown in week 2, and 7 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown in week 1. He's been such a reliable go-to target for an offense that has been one of the best in the NFL, and the only real downside of his performance so far is he's kind of vaporized Ladd McConkey, which sucks, but Ladd has a lot more years than Keenan does, so I guess we just gotta wait. The Tom Brady Award for most clutch performance goes to Jared Goff. It won't really show up on the stat sheet, but Jared Goff played a masterful game against the Ravens, capped off by the play that really earned him this award, a 4th down conversion to Amon-Ra St. Brown that was an absolute dot. Cool, calm under pressure, executes when he needs to. Honestly, very Brady-esque. The Nathaniel Hackett Award goes to a guy who I almost named this award after instead of Nathaniel Hackett, but apparently he really wants the recognition still. It's Matt Eberflus for getting completely torched by the team he used to coach. I don't think there's any bigger indictment of you as a coach than when you have to take a demotion from your previous post as head coach and go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else, and then your defense gets completely gashed by a team that you couldn't get to score points to save your life. I think sometimes we need to believe coaches when they show us who they are, aka a bad coach. Sticking in that game, we've got the Will Levis Award, and it goes to Javonte Williams. This turnover wasn't head-scratching in the sense that it had anything to do with Javonte's decision-making. It was just head-scratching in the sense of, how do you let that happen? The dude just let the ball get ripped from his hands. Next to the sideline, no less, he was almost out of bounds and the play would have been over, but instead he lets the defender take it like he's stealing a loaf of bread. You know it's bad when there's a dumb mistake in a game involving the Chicago Bears, and they're the beneficiaries of it and not the victim. Still sticking in that game, we've got our breakout player of the week, and it is Luther Burden. We're starting to see flashes of why Ben Johnson spent a premium draft pick on this guy, even though the depth chart didn't necessarily suggest there was a need. 3 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown, and with DJ Moore starting to fade into the background a bit, you gotta wonder if this is the start of something more. Now, the last award I'll give out for this game, and I'm sorry Bears fans, it's the I'm not falling for that award. It's not that I don't believe in this version of the Bears, it's not that I don't believe that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams can put together a contender with this team. It's just that I don't want to put too much stock in their performance against this Cowboys defense, because that defense is an embarrassment. I'm talking thinking it's pajama day at school, but you show up and you're the only one wearing pajamas and it's a shark onesie level embarrassment. Now, I do think they can use this performance as a jumping off point for the rest of the season and try to keep this momentum going. I'm just not falling for the idea that the Bears have truly arrived. Not yet. And last but not least, our Lord and Savior award goes to Bucky Irving. In Bucky, we sucky. You really got to get that run game going though. It's not looking great. That'll do it for this week. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any award ideas that you want me to hand out in the future. But for now, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.